This week on Cantina Chronicles, Adam and Ben review Andor Season 2, Episodes 1, 2, and 3, titled 1 Year Later, Sagrona Teema, and Harvest. Join us at the Cantina while we relive and process all of the jaw-dropping scenes from this amazing show. Let's go. Welcome back to a very exciting edition of Cantina Chronicles. For our new listeners here, Cantina Chronicles is a weekly Cantina crawl across the Star Wars galaxy where we have mind-expanding conversations about all things Star Wars, including news, notes, theory, synthesizing all media. We are Grant, Adam, and Ben, and we are your landing pad for all things Star Wars. Welcome.
Yeah.
Obviously, today we're going to be talking about Andor Season 2, the first 3 episodes.
Yeah.
Adam is here presently.
I'm here.
Adam.
Yep. Hi. How you doing?
Grant is literally on Batu right now. He's going to probably be flying into the bar a little late, and we're looking forward to pulling him in and getting his view on these episodes. But it is what it is.
Yeah. Hopefully, he escapes from 2 rival factions of a rebel cell fighting each other.
Exactly.
One of my favorite things I've ever seen. We'll talk about that in a little bit.
Oh, I know, like full of things. So much to get into with these 3 first episodes of Andor Season 2. Obviously, long awaited. I feel like it's all we've talked about for the last 10 weeks is Andor and what's coming up. So we finally got it. Jaw dropping, 45-minute episodes. Adam, 3 like
chunky ones.
Least, chunky episodes.
Yeah,
so much in there.
Yeah, when you add it in, it's actually a running time of a movie. I was a little nervous because sometimes, Disney Plus likes those 20, 30-minute episodes. But no, I forgot Andor Season 1 when I was watching it. These are all 45 to 55-minute longs, and they're keeping it up. So I'm like, yes, it's literally a movie. And this, we'll talk about it. It felt like a movie, right? Like, it makes sense that they released it this way. I could not imagine waiting week to week to complete the storyline.
Oh, it would drive me bonkers.
Yeah. So I tell you, my first reaction to this thing, and I mean, literally, like, opening scene it was the closest I've felt watching a Star Wars since The Force Awakens, because I will always remember being in the seats Force Awakens and not being able to settle down into the movie for about the first half an hour, because I was just like, I was almost having like out of body experience. Like, this is weird. I'm seeing new Star Wars, but it's not Lucas. Is this good? Is it good? I think it's good. That might be bad. I think this is good. Is it good? I hope it's good. Like, I really still remember that first scene, like, really being in my head. Yeah. It didn't last as long, but this time, this is probably the project I've had the most riding on mentally for a long time, because the first season was perfect. And so for the first like 5 minutes, it's just like, is that okay? I think that's okay. I think that's good. That's weird. And I'm like, and then I was just like, no, this is great. I'm fine. I'm good. Yeah. Everything's fine. But it really reminds me of that. Yeah.
There's like, you're right. There's like some sort of initial trauma when witnessing a Star Wars for the first time, where it's just, there's so much to take in. Especially when you care about all the stuff in the background and who all the characters are and what's going on. My mind doesn't have time to process it. So I kind of get dial tone brain, and I'm just sort of like, and then just like watch it all come in, which I'm super excited about. We get, for those that don't know, each one of these each week. So this is week 1 of 4, will be for a year. It's Tony Gilroy described it as a needle drop onto a record. You're going to get 3 days in a row in a given year. Next week is going to be 3 days in a row in the following year, and so on. So this is 4 years before the Battle of Yavin, which is so satisfying. They did it in Andor Season 1 where it starts 5. They actually do BBY 5, which doesn't make any sense, but before the Battle of Yavin 5, which doesn't make any sense, but go with it, and they're rocking it, and that's cool.
Yeah, so I want to stop there for a second, because I watched this with my wife, who loves Star Wars, but is, we talk about, she only views live action Star Wars. She watches it all, but she has not read anything else. Like, she does not consume any other Star Wars than live action Star Wars.
Right.
So we were talking at the end, and she followed that it was 1 year later, and she knew it was like a few years before Rogue One. And I'm like, we're talking, I'm like, it's so cool. And she's like, I'm like, do you want to know what the plan is for the season? And she's like, yes. I'm like, it's every arc is another year forward. She's like, that's awesome. And I'm like, yeah, I can't believe it's like, it's 4 BBY. And she looked at me, she's like, what does that mean? Because when I saw that, I thought that was a weird name for a planet. I'm like, oh, of course you wouldn't know what that is. And once I told her, she's like, okay, that makes sense. Like, she's like, I get timeline stuff. And once I told her, it's like, and when I said Battle of Yavin, she wasn't like, what's that? She's like, okay, so it's 4 years before Star Wars, A New Hope. She's like, so she clicked in on that. But it's just really funny if this through another person's eyes, just like, oh yeah, that wouldn't make any sense to other than Star Wars.
Inside baseball.
It is.
Like, you'd have to. I mean, really, it came out of the initial expanded universe novel.
It was 100%.
Establish it, and it does, it doesn't make any sense in Galaxy either, because that's not how they tell time there. When we don't really even know, they're just like, oh yeah, 25,000 years ago, blah blah blah, like, but there's no like Star Trek Stardate or like anything like that you ever see. So you're just going, which is, I mean that's probably part of the magic, which is cool.
It is. I love it.
Yeah. So, and I think actually the first episode was called 1 year later. And so we're just into it, and we're on. Okay. So this is the first thing that was like, Sinar.
Yeah.
So Sinar Systems is one of the military industrial complex, like the military producers of starships. There's several. There's Kuat. There's like all these other things, but I never, it's not clear. They just said Sinar.
Yeah.
And so it may actually have been on a planet, because Sinar has production facilities all over the galaxy. I've done some research there, and they're sort of located in various places. They make TIE fighters, most notably. They make a lot of other things too. But so I don't know if they're like, this is just an unnamed Sinar facility, or if there's actually a planet called Sinar, which is possible.
It's unclear. Based on Wikipedia, it says it's Sinar Test Facility 73. But that's okay. Wait. So this is just Wikipedia, so it might be wrong. But here's what Wikipedia is saying. It says Sinar Test Facility. This is really funny. Sinar Test Facility 73 was a testing facility operated by Sinar Fleet Systems, located on Planet 73, one of the various numerically designated planets owned by the company. So apparently they have like hundreds of planets that they own. Which
would make sense. Yeah.
All over the High Republic, by the way.
Really? Oh,
Sinar. Yeah.
Oh, that's wild. I wonder what they're making back then, because it's not TIE fighters. So
no, yeah.
That's interesting. We'll have to go back, because I don't remember. I feel like I would have seen a Sinar sort of thing. So okay, good. We've been here for 5 minutes, and we've discussed the date and the location. So this is how this one is going to go. In like 6 short hours, we're going to get through the first episode. But yeah, so it's there. It's beautiful. We're in a hangar. We see some sort of TIE fighter that's a test model.
Yeah, TIE Avenger is what they're calling it.
That's what they're calling it.
Yeah, TIE Avenger. Yep.
Nice. Yep. I didn't get that. So that's really cool. We've never seen that before. Nope. That was one of the coolest things about Rogue One, is they brought in all these new designs, and I feel like Tony likes that, and he's going with that, because we see this, and obviously it makes sense for plot, because you have a TIE fighter that you can put multiple people in, and whatever. But it's like a tank. I mean, that thing it's a beast. And anyways, Cassian's there to steal it, and which is really fun. Nice little caper to get this thing started.
It's a great way to get you back in. It is like a nice little, it reminds me of like James Bond. It reminds me of like the opening scene of a Bond film, where just get a nice action piece in. And then it also is showing off just the amount of money they spent on this thing. Carly and I looked at each other and paused it. We're like, they spent all of the money on this. Like the special effects felt like movie level in some of these scenes. It is wild. Yeah, how much they put into
just to get into it. It makes sense. And Tony Gilroy wrote this arc. Bo Williman will write another one, and his brother Dan Gilroy will write another, and then his other brother will edits everything. I forget his name right now.
Family business. Yeah,
definitely, which is really cool. Like how fun to make art with your brothers. And
reminds me of the Nolans, right? You got the Nolan brothers, and I like that. I feel like you get that, and the Coen brothers. Like I feel like you get the siblings and the Wachowskis, right? Like I feel like when you get siblings working together, they're shorthanded. Like they know how to they know each other.
Right. They've probably been making dumb movies since they were like 5, right? Like doing all this stuff, and they just have a shorthand, and they're and have just evolved together, which I think is really a really cool phenomenon. So huzzah to the Gilroys.
For sure.
And Bo. Will be there too. So anyways, Tony did this one. I think he's probably going to do the first and last, and then Bo and Dan will do probably the middle arcs. But
that makes sense. Yeah.
That's what he did in the first. That's what happened in the first season. So, so gonna be super fun. But amazing design. The like TIE test pilot suit is legendary already.
Yes. Yeah,
so cool.
Love looking. It. Yeah.
And then I didn't get the name of his accomplice that's sort of on the inside that was helping him.
Nia or Naya, I can't remember. Yeah, it's Niya. Yeah, and she was great. I loved just the great amount of fear, but felt like it was right. And I just love that she says a line of like, but it was fun, right? Like this job was fun at times.
We had fun days. Yeah.
Days. And I like that it's not like not everyone who's in a system of evil is inherently evil themselves, right? Like there's some that don't realize it, and it's when you awaken and fight back against it. I mean, that's like not to get too far down the road, but it's like Schindler, right? When Schindler had his great awakening, but Schindler was a registered Nazi. Like he was part of the party. He was there, and then he saw what was happening and realized he needed to do something. And I love that. And then there's a line which I was like, I didn't know what this line meant, where he's like, I'll see you down the road, right at the very end. And I thought literally he was going to be picking her up. I was like, oh no, it's a metaphorical road, the road of the rebellion, basically. Like I'll see you. Yeah, and I love that. Yeah,
really cool. And I loved his motivational speech to her, and obviously showed where he was. It was kind of like his Luthen Rail monologue about that's sort of like you need to focus on that, like why you're here, of the injustices of all the things that's going on. And he's like, I think it's a privilege. I'm happy to be, this is when I'm alive. And so he's telling it to her, and he's telling it to us about himself. And that was fantastic.
And comedy beats in this too, with the flying, and which I appreciated, because again, as we talked about, these shows can be very dark and dire, but you need a little bit of that comedy to cut it. So I appreciated that.
Yeah, exactly. When he's like, testing out all the different weapons and like blasts that range trooper. Just the next dimension.
I was just waiting to see his like boots, just his boots still there, and just everything else disintegrated. But yeah, there's
this burning like Wookiee fur chaps. Pretty fun. Yeah, reckless, crazy, great action beat. And he's off, which is great. So these. It's going to be impossible for me to divide between the 3 episodes here. So I'm sort of thinking about this in 3 character arcs.
Yeah, it's one shot. I mean, it's one continuous story. So it makes sense to approach it that way. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, next week's going to feel completely different, because it could be an entirely different cast. It's going to be dealing with entirely different issues. It'll be a year later. There's going to be a massive time jump. Things could be very different. Yeah. And it'll be fun to sort of talk about what it might be and make some guesses there. But essentially we have 4 storylines. Cassian Andor's sort of personal journey.
Just trying to get back to, was it Minaru? Was it
Minaru? Yeah.
Minaru,
and then we have the Minaru arc, which is sort of, we're catching up with everyone else from Fennec, Brasso, Will, and Bix and B. And sort of what they're dealing with, they're trying to hide out and still having to deal with the Empire. Then we have Mon Mothma's her daughter's wedding at her Chandrilan palace, which is so cool to see. Sorry, there'll be a lot of that. And then Dedra and Cyril. Mostly Dedra, really.
Mostly Dedra with the right amount of sprinkling of Cyril. And what I loved about this is oftentimes when you have 4 storylines going, there's the one that you're excited to see, and there's the ones that you're fine to see. And I was actively happy every time it switched back. I was like equally engrossed in all of 4 storylines, where I'm like, keep bringing me back.
Keep them coming. Like, what's next?
I will say, and this is my only critique, and we'll get into a little later, is that sometimes I felt there was a little too much cross cutting. That kind of bumped up against the momentum for me. But once I settled into what he was doing, and I think there was also masterful cross cutting that I want to talk about a little later. But like, that's at times it was a little like, no, don't go. Oh, it felt very episode 1 Lucas to me, final battle, where I'm like cutting too many times back and forth.
Yeah, I've never edited a narrative like this, so I don't really know what the idea is. But I do know is that very typically they want to take a certain section to a to like a crescendo where you're dying to know what happens next, and that's where you're talking.
Yeah. So I guess the good point is that they were getting the reaction out of me that they wanted,
probably desired. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, pretty great. They yeah, you're right. There is one. They cut a lot on audio and ambiguous audio that you're like the sound you hear, you think is something happening in the previous scene, but it's in the next scene, and it actually could be a sound that means two very different things.
Yes.
It's very easy to trick the mind with artificial sound. As an audio engineer, I will let you know you can make anything sound like anything. You can take a bag of nails and make it sound like, like someone fixing their car or something. Like it's
right. Yeah, I always remember those especially Universal Studios of all places. They would have the sound design thing, and they would show you all the sounds that they used to do like
Foley,
the Foley work. Thank you. I was like, could not think of the word, and I love that stuff because it's wild. And we all, Ben Burt and all that stuff, talking about how they come up with the blaster sounds is amazing.
Yeah. So then I don't know if it's next, but I'd love to talk about it next because I think Dedra is probably my second favorite character in this thing, Dedra Meero, and her adventures. And we catch up with her and Major Partagaz at the Maltheme Divide, a little summit that is brought together and helmed by Ben Mendelsohn's character, Director Krennic. Woof, just right into it. Just like bang, there's Ben Mendelsohn. Have some.
Yeah, right. Yeah. No, it was amazing. And he's just still in on that character, right? Like just still dialed in. Like I was so happy to see him. And and I love the fact that they use him to further Deirdre's plot in a way that makes sense, right? Because she is like a lot of this. The funny thing is, a lot of the plot in this show is that yes, things have changed in the past year, but a lot of our main characters are kind of in stagnant places in an interesting way. Like they haven't moved. They kind of moved a little bit and they seem stuck, and all of them get unstuck in this episode in one way or another, and some horribly. But like it's very interesting, right? Because you have the biggest change is Cassian, but he's just clearly just now living the rebel life. He doesn't really have anything else going on. But then you have Bix, which we'll get to, who's just still dealing with the trauma, still traumatized. You have Cyril still working in the same place. Yes, he's advanced, but he's still part of the middle management. You have Deirdre just still kind of stuck doing her thing. You have Mon. I mean, last we saw her, she was planning a wedding. The next time we see her, she's planning a wedding, right? Like So it's just interesting, and I feel like all of them get forced to move forward in some way in this episode.
Yeah, it's a really good point. Yeah, and I mean, I guess that's the point. What Tony had said in previous interviews was just sort of like they tried to pick the most exciting 3 days they could in the year to sort of like get them going. And I think this was probably a tough one to really. You got to be like, okay, this is how they've progressed, and this is where they're headed. And and it came from like kind of unknown places, sort of not inconsequential, but Dedra was great. Though.
Yes.
I love, horrifying presentation given by Director Krennic to a very closed area. So cool. Those meetings are really what I'm here for Andor.
Same.
The ISB meetings, the top secret, we're terrible people meetings, especially the ISB and all their snippy dialogue, like that Sorkin-esque, just like, I don't know, downery of like your next person. Like I love that so much.
It's so, that there's so many things in that meeting that I just loved. I love the travel log video. Like at first I was like, what? And then by like 10 seconds in, I'm like, oh, this is amazing. Like just watching this, the Gorlectopods, they're called the Gorman spiders. Yeah. Like just amazing.
Whatever they are.
Yes. And just the two I can't remember what they called them, but like the two propaganda presenters.
I don't know their names.
They were like nailing it. I mean, just the thing is like I don't want to evoke Nazism too much. This is the second time, but I just want to say one other thing. It's like it just reminds me of like there's a movie about it. I can't remember what it's called. It's like an HBO movie. It's really actually it's called Conspiracy. That's the name of the movie, and it is about basically the meeting where the Nazis decide on the final solution. And it is one of the most engrossing films I've ever seen, because it's just like 8-10 people sitting around a room deciding to commit the most awful atrocity of human history, but it's just treated like a business meeting, right? I'm just like, well, this wouldn't work. How would this work? How would we sell this? And so they were like really trying to do the same thing in this episode, which I was just like, it's amazing just watching the banality of evil, right?
Oh, that's so exactly. Just perfectly said, Adam. That is exactly it. Fantastic. I'm a massive Major Partagaz fan. I have a feeling this might be us sort of wishing him farewell. I don't know how much we'll see of him in the future. But it was great that he was in the room. It seemed like those people were the people. So I was a little put off. So we have that scene, and then we have a follow-up with Partagaz and Dedra walking towards the ISB building. So they're sort of back from their trip to the Malthian Divide. But he sounded like he was like, well, they chose you, didn't they? And she was like, yeah. So it's like there might have even been another round of cuts in that meeting for like giving people jobs. And I'm not certain that he's involved as well, but maybe he was speaking rhetorically, like you were at the meeting, right? So, and essentially he's telling her, yes, Ferrex was a disaster. You're very fortunate to have this opportunity. You're unfortunate to have any opportunity, basically.
Yeah, and it's going to look bad because it's going to look like a demotion, I think is what he says. Because I think but it is the way. And I think my reading of it was that he saw the meeting between Krennic and Dedra, right? And could read it very quickly of like, okay, she's doing the Dedra thing clearly. And I mean, as much as the Ferrex incident was horrible, I think he knows how strong she is, right? And
it wouldn't even have been there if it wasn't for her.
Exactly. Yeah. That wasn't her fault. The what happened there, really.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. It would not have had that presence. Like they did their best and just didn't, expect to run into that much retaliation, which I'm sure is frowned on, but it was like, she's super smart. I think Partagaz recognizes that. Like he was kind of reluctant, like essentially in the beginning of season 1, he was like, you're our token female. And she had to swallow that. And then he's sort of like, she earns his respect over the course of that season. And I think he's definitely in her corner. He was probably the one that was like, yeah, I've got someone who's perfect for this.
Right. Yeah. I mean, so they had to bring someone, right? And it's the fact that they chose her. I also think this totally explains, because I kind of bumped up against, we'll get to it later, but that she's like apparently living with Cyril, like, or at least like living. Yeah. They're living together. They kind of established that. And then I'm like, no, because her self-esteem is rock bottom right now, right? Because the Ferrex has happened, and then she's like probably going to work every day, and everyone's just like talking behind her back about how she messed up that Ferrex thing. And so like, of course she's gonna date this guy, because she just feels awful about herself. And I'm like, that's gonna be interesting for their relationship as she starts to climb back up. Like, what's gonna happen between them? Yeah,
I know, because and like how things change. I really do. I think, in my own humble opinion, is like, every man in her life is trying to take her out at the knees. Except for Cyril is the one person that just like puts her on a pedestal.
It's very true. He worships her. Yeah.
He worships her. And she's like, that's annoying. I could crush you like a bug. And he's like, please crush me like a bug.
Yeah. Please step on me. Right. Like, yes. Yeah. I mean, it's Star Wars, so we're not going to get into it, but I'd be very interested to see what happens behind closed doors between the two of them, because I have theories about what's going on. There's some sub-dom stuff going on for sure.
Yep. And we don't need to go any further.
Nope. We'll leave it there.
That's a very clear picture. Thank you, Adam.
You're welcome.
We kind of skipped over it, but Director Krennic immediately identifies Dedra as as being much more than she lets on. And I love that for both of those characters.
Me too. And that's why I think we will see more of Krennic. I think we'll see him more because right, he's got to be at least probably very similar to this, just a meeting an episode. He's probably shooting a day for every episode. Oh, by the way, I got the name of the two people. It's like D. Shabo and Nisus Orsar. But like, here's the best thing: they come from the Ministry of Enlightenment.
Aren't we so enlightened?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh. Oh, that's so great. Yeah, and they are the two people that would be first to throw in a Sarlacc pit.
Mm-hmm.
And
they're so smug and full of themselves, and just so
like, look at how we deceive people so easily.
Yeah, we're so clever about how we're going to commit genocide. Yeah,
it's going to be great. And they're just like, and they're pitching the whole like how they're going to defame the poor Gormans.
Yeah.
So Gorman is a huge is going to be a huge part of this whole season. I think that's, you know, we heard about them initially. There was an like trade route embargo against them that Mon Mothma was trying to rally Senate support for to defeat, and you know, just bringing like any light to it because they're starving and all that. We saw that in the first season, and now we know they're in the crosshairs of the Empire to obtain Calcite, and I don't know. I did love the video. My favorite part of the video was the Gorman horn.
Yes.
And I don't think we've seen the last of the Gorman horn either. No. It's like a cross between a very deep horn and bagpipes.
Yes.
It's
amazing. It's just the whole, everything is like, it's Star Wars. Everything's almost something and then like 10 degrees off, and it's just perfect.
Exactly. That's perfect. Exactly. Very well said. That's how you make a Star Wars. It's like, it's familiar, but it's just not that. It's something else.
Right.
That's the way I look at the music too, trying to like make Star Wars music.
Right. No, that's a good point. And we're going to hit that towards the end of this episode, or we'll talk about music, I think, a bit. And we get to the dance music at the end of the day. But the thing I just realized too is I love how much this and Rogue One are obviously going to dovetail. But when you put all these shows together in the movie, it's all about the Death Star. Everything's about the Death Star. Yeah. Right. Because season 1, they're building the things to be the Death Star, the Calcites for the Death Star. And then they find the plans for the Death Star. Like literally his entire life in the rebellion is going to be centered around trying to destroy, like it's poetic, right? Like his entire connection, and he doesn't know it until the very end, and he's dead before he doesn't see the fruits of his actions for the past 5 years, and not even knowing he's fighting this battle. It's kind of just an amazing storytelling that way.
Yeah. It really is. It's going to be wild. I think, just going back to the horn for a second.
Sorry. Yeah.
I see it maybe playing a similar role as the anvil from Ferrex. Where
gotcha.
Carries that.
Right? Oh, I didn't even think about that, but I bet you're right. I love that. Yeah.
Very fun. I almost feel like we could just wrap up Dedra's arc.
I was thinking the same thing. Let's just keep going because there's only a little more. But yeah.
I mean, so we've established this. We established she's living with Cyril. Did you have any doubts what the nerves were? Like what they were nervous about?
No, I instantly knew it's meeting the mom. Like it is like, it's just so wonderful because I was like, for a second, I'm like, what? Oh, it's the mom. She's meeting the mom. And I just love she's like, we could put it off again. And it's just that she's like, we have to do it. Like, and she doesn't even look happy. Like, it's just, second I figured that was going to happen, I just could not wait to see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so they're gearing up for it. And then we get the mom, and she's just as terrible as you think she's going to be. And
yes, horrible.
And I didn't see where this was going. It was just like, I was like, no. Poor Cyril being emasculated by his mother, like over and over again. And just being terrible. And there's so much there. And then I didn't see it happening. And then I was like, oh, right. She's an ISB agent. Dedra is an ISB agent. She doesn't take smoke from anybody. And like, yes, it was cathartic and it was great how she dressed it down. But like, for me, it's just like, that was I was like, oh yeah, it was more about ISB agents in general and what they're like as people and what it takes to become one.
Yeah. And it's not it's a couple things. One, Cyril is dating a type, like he has a type, which is his mom. And I don't want to get too Freudian about it, but in terms of like, she is like the fact that like they're negotiating with him in the room about what's allowable and not allowable with him. And I love the fact that you're right, ISB agent, because she's not threatening her. She's not like in point of like, you treat him well or I will do this. He's just like, these are the agreements. If you do this, we'll do this. Like, just very clearly, like, you can do this and this and this, and I'll make sure he contacts you once a week, and you can come over once a month. And I'm just like, it's amazing. Like, it's just, and then
I know what you want. Yes. These are the things, you will get them. And but this is the conditions. And if you break the conditions, I'll probably have you murdered.
Yes, right. It's so amazing. And then one of the funniest cuts in this episode is they cut to him in the bedroom, like, because he excuses himself just to pretend to go to the bathroom, and the way he's lying on the bed and then suddenly pops up is one of the funniest things I've ever seen in Star Wars. It's just amazing and so human. And You know what's been driving me nuts is I've been trying to figure out who that actor or who Cyril reminds me of, and it's Crispin Glover. He has total Crispin Glover vibes to me. And, like, he's just kind of weird and off, but kind of very human. From so he's the dad from Back to the Future, and in Friday the 13th Part 4, the best Friday the 13th. Okay. But yeah, he's like totally 80s of that person. He was like Willard in a horror movie, but he has that. He's kind of off, like, but it's still like, yeah, just love him.
He is Kyle MacLachlan to me.
I can totally see that too.
Kyle MacLachlan is that's the only guy I'm such a Twin Peaks fan, and I just kind of feel like that character.
But they got similar vibes. Kyle MacLachlan's a bit off, right? Like, he's all American, but off. Like, tweak a little bit. Yeah,
but so, I mean, Cyril's pretty nuts.
He is, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, he's just such an easy character to hate, but in this situation, and it's going to be wild, right? Because, like, now, what is Cyril Karn going to be like with mother's love and support?
I don't know, right? Like, I don't know if it's going to go good or bad, if it's going to be like, oh, now we can do anything, or he needed that motivation. Like, who knows?
Yeah, like what if he just needed kind words in his life for a change from his mother, instead of constant just like negative. That
character is always the mystery to me. I still have no idea where we're going with him. Like, I like where he could end up, and I love it.
He's great. But anyway, so that is sort of how that wraps up. Karn's mother, Mrs. Karn, if you will, put in her place, and Cyril Karn free. His soul is free. He's found his mate. Dedra's like, you know what? I can fix this one thing. I can't fix everything. I never found Axis, but I'm able to fix this one thing. And then she's going to be in it, and Gorman and Calcite and the whole deal. So
and is that it? Is that it for the Deirdre? Like, that's that plot line, right?
Yeah,
it's so funny. I feel like we saw her a lot more, but we didn't. But she commands whenever they have scenes with her. She just commands those scenes. I feel like she was in it so much more.
Such a prolific frowner. Like that. Like the actress, it was so weird to see her on stage. She's so like normal
and smiley and can smile and talk and be like she just. The casting of her, it sounds so weird to say this, but the casting of her face is one of the best casting things I've ever seen. She has like an imperial face.
That's acting. Casting her, because
it is.
So the scene in the mirror where she's looking at outfits, and then she smiles, and her like breaks her face to smile.
Creepy. It's like, ugh. Like, I don't want to see this person smile.
It's like, no, I never want to see you smile again. Don't do that. Don't do that.
Yeah.
And then they're like, just right back to that, like, that awesome imperial frown. That'll be live in my heart forever. So fare thee well. Can't wait to see you next week, Dedra.
Do you want to talk Andor next? I know it might be weird to talk about our main character second, but I feel like his is also the most contained story and kind of easiest to talk about. We'll leave the end out. When they both dovetail together, but I think his is a good one to talk about.
Let's go.
So goes for a meetup with Porco, which on an unnamed, quote unquote, unnamed planet, which we'll talk about a little later, I'm sure.
Yes.
Which that was a nice little moment when he pulls out at the end where I was just like, that's where we are. Yeah.
We'll talk about that a lot.
Yeah. But my favorite, Grant, unfortunately isn't here, but he had my favorite conspiracy text of the chain of like, it was Grant, right? He was like, Porco? Could it be Porkins? And I'm like, now you're just teasing me.
Like, I mean, that's what I thought too. I mean, how many pork names are there in Star Wars?
Right? And I'm like, that'd be amazing. If you bring back Porkins, I will die a happy man.
Jack Porkins. Yeah.
Maybe he's just been there. Maybe he's just been there the entire time when they set up shop there. He's just like, I've been here for 2 years.
I know. I think, it sounded like he actually, it would be great if it was him. I was like, oh no, I'm thinking of the other character that was there, but they're involved, but I think it very easily could be Jack Porkins. That would be really great. To have 2 pork names die prematurely, I think would be too much for my heart. So we'll see how it goes. But I do have a feeling that we're actually going to see Porco at some point in the show. I think he's a lot.
It seems like such a great name and such a weird way to have a call out to not have any kind of catharsis. Like you thought, if you think if he was dead, they would at least Andor would have run across his body or something. You know what I mean? Just like some kind of weird moment of that. But so the fact that we don't get a body, and we talk about this all the time in Star Wars. So if there's not a body, they're not dead. That's always my philosophy.
Right. Yeah. So he's here to make the deal with Porco. Yeah. He's there to drop off his ship and pick up his own ship. I don't know if you caught that. I assume everyone caught it, but this was Cassian's ship that he escaped in from Ferrix, was down there and crashed. That poor thing. Yeah. And then immediately gets held up by a bunch of militia members there. So that is I mean, so I think the reason we don't know is this whole sequence for me was very Apocalypse Now.
Yes. And
it's just like you're always off base. You're like, well, wait, what? Like, why is that? Like, did anyone look for Porco? Like, what is going on?
Yeah. And he's thrown in the middle of it. He can't understand what's happening. There's not enough time to figure out what's happening. Like, it's very, I didn't think about that, but like Apocalypse Now is perfect. It is very much like a Vietnam movie, like a middle like section of this. It's very true. It feels like so many of those films. Yeah, I didn't even catch that, but you're 100% right. Yeah.
And my thought, so he gets taken prisoner, and then a civil war breaks out. We know this if you've seen it. And between they get divided. I forget even what set it off, but there's two guys that sort of hate each other there. I've got their names somewhere, but Barty and Gertis are the two.
Barty and
the blonde guy and the guy in the red sort of like hood or whatever. They're there and they're fighting and they divided. So, but
Barty, quick side note, sorry, Barty, it was on a teen drama series called Never Have I Ever on Netflix that Carly and I watched, and he's the stoner friend. And so we were like for 5 minutes, like, who is that? I'm like, it's the stoner from Never Have I Ever. And I'm like, he's so good in this. It's just so funny to see him in a completely different light. But anyway, continue. That was a really
good for him. Good for him. Yeah. Nice. This is a nice get for him. They were excellent actors, as all of them are. So it's great. But I was thinking, they capture Cassian and he's just like biding his time. And looking for a seam for his escape. But I was just like, through Cassian's eye, I feel like Cassian is very much like a Jedi. Like he plays the role of a Jedi in this thing, where that he can sort of perform any role that needs to be performed. And this is one of those cases where they just need a leader. Like he's looking at this cadre and he's like, you have no leadership. There's no one here strong enough to actually pull these people together and get them moving in the same direction, let alone the right direction. And I feel like that is going to come into play in future episodes. But that was it. And he picked his spot. I mean, he was being held captive on his own ship, which certainly helped. His cause, and flies out of there. But woof.
I love, it's all psychological warfare. There's like a couple things that really stood out to me in this section. I just love it, just him playing two ends against the middle, like just knowing how to like say the right thing to get him to do whatever. The scene where they're trying to move the TIE Advance like just like 5 feet to the right to get to be able to shoot. It's just an amazing scene. And when Cassian does the quick math of just like, no, they could do it. Like if they're doing it that much and you could do it overnight.
Do it by midnight.
By midnight. And then the other thing I just love about this is the direction. I don't know who directed this episode. Ariel Kleinman, I think. Kleinman, I think directed it. Such a great sense of setting and scale, where like you just know he just needs to get across the field, right? And like it's just amazing. There's like how close that is, and just that dead run at the end is so scary. And then you've just the natural setup of like, there's creatures out here, and you're waiting for the tents. And the second he runs out into the woods, I'm like, well, here comes the creatures. Like you're out of the clearing, and then it's just great. As
soon as they mentioned the creatures, like anytime anyone strayed too close to the forest, I was like, oh, here it comes. Here it comes. We're gonna get a jump scare. One of these things is gonna come.
And
sure the way they delivered was more enjoyable for that, because like the action was already happening, and just like out of nowhere, like one just leans through the middle, and you're like, and what? And you're like, oh.
And especially because I was expecting it to go after Cassian, right? And then for it not to be that was kind of where it did startle me still, because I was expecting it, but I wasn't expecting it then or there, and it really did make me jump a little.
It was a little bit of a charmed life, Cassian. I mean, he went to prison, and that was a tough like pull, but you know, the fact that like in the finale of season 1, he just sort of like got in and got out with his girlfriend.
Yeah. I mean, it's the Han Solo thing. It's the will of the Force, man. Like the Force knows that he's playing an important role, and he's a little touched, right? He's a little like he's safe for a lot of things until he's not, because he does the thing he needs done, and then the Force abandons him to a planet being blown up underneath him.
After his job was done.
Yeah. It's true. Like that's the way. That's what doing everything being around Death Star. It really does feel like fate was just trying to get him, to get the Death Star to be able to give it to Luke. Like that's just, when you think about the whole thing, it's just really amazing. Just again, I know we're talking about stuff we talked about since Rogue One, but the fact that this just builds that story out even more, it's just amazing. I think that's it with the Cassian stuff. I thought there was one other thing I wanted to mention, but no, it was just a fun kind of adventure. Also had like tinges of World War I No Man's Land sections a little bit when they're crawling through mud to get see what everyone else was doing. Oh
yeah, all that wartime stuff, but you're just like, oh, look at these clowns.
The
thing I actually missed, which is the biggest part of it, my first watch through, was like during the altercation where someone pulls his the big dumb idiot pulls his blaster and shoots, he actually kills the other pilot, and that's why they get split up. So it's
okay.
One of the female that was the pilot. So they have one pilot, and he's in one camp, and then the other camp has the ship, and they're like, all right, now that's what caused the impasse, as it were.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, but so like this leads us to, it's like, oh my god, look at these clowns. You got away, great. We'll never see them again. And he clearly flies out of the treetops of Yavin 4.
Yavin 4. It's right there. Yep. I mean, again, Carly recognized it immediately. Like it was done really well, and it was a nice little touch, and it didn't feel like too coincidental because it was already a meeting place for rebels, right? Like it was known. It wasn't like he accidentally crash landed on what turned out to be Yavin. No, it makes sense that this was a known planet to the rebellion, and then that they would have to come back here for whatever reason. But yeah, I feel like it'll be interesting. We know we're getting scenes in Yavin. We've seen it in the previews. I mean, you know it anyway because it's going to happen. And I wonder if we're going to see any of these, nascent rebels back around in a year and a half or 2 years.
I know. Yeah, because they're coming back at some point, and they're coming back organized.
Yeah.
It's going to be actually not this season. It will be either. Or not this week.
Not the
week. It'll be the second or the third week. The third week is going to be the Mon Mothma extraction.
Okay, that makes sense. Because the years when it has to happen, right?
Because the thing is, the cheat code is that if you watch Rebels, it actually follows this journey, this whole journey of Andor exactly by year. But in Rebels' case, you have a whole season per year leading up to Yavin. So that's a season 3 thing, is the Mon Mothma extraction, and they meet Wedge Antilles. So I've been sort of keeping this thing on the side about what like Rebel stuff I can bring in here.
I had the realization, by the way.
Yeah.
Are we going to see Ahsoka in this series?
Like, well, I was just thinking that, dude. Like, where were you thinking? How do you think they could do that? Because I don't. No idea.
I would love to hear your idea, because I was literally sitting there and I was thinking about the timeline, because you said that last week and you clicked. I mean, I knew that these two shows are running parallel, but really, you just, once you said the same thing to me last week, I think we were off air. It really just clicked to me. Like, oh yeah, these are parallel, and I was just like, why wouldn't you? Like, they do use each other's properties. Ahsoka's in here in the mix, like. You could see her. You could see her being connected to Luthen Rail somehow. Like, right? Like, I don't know. Like, what's your theory? I'd love to hear yours.
Well, can I do a little quick season 2 Rebels book report?
Please.
That's like, very, just to sort of, I ticked sort of things off.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
So season 2 of Rebels parallels this week that we saw, right? So meanwhile, on different part of the galaxy with the Rebels people, they've joined with Commander Sato. They have a Rebel cell. Right. Ahsoka is their sort of was their inside leader, but is now one of their just leaders, boots on the ground. They reconnect with Captain Rex, Wolf and Gregor. They discover B-wings. They get a B-wing into their arsenal.
Right.
Yeah, I think actually. Oh no! Next week they get the Y-wings. They run into Tam Syndulla, so nothing really big. Lasat's, Purgles, and then they meet up with Maul at the end of the season. And they end up going to Malachor, and that all happens in season 2.
Okay, so that's the world between worlds.
Yeah, and actually, so this is the year that Ahsoka blips out.
Yeah.
And we don't know when she's in the world between worlds, but we don't know where she re-enters in the timeline. We assume she comes back at roughly the same time. Actually, I think at the end of that, we see her walking out of the temple.
Yeah, they show in the timelines book that she exits and re-enters
in the
pretty
same
quickly, same moment, or at least within.
Actually, now that I'm seeing that, there's like an end of the thing where we see sort of Vader limps out, and then in a different part of the temple, Ahsoka limps out. So that's all going on there. So that's kind of it. And then they find their first base, which is called Chopper Base. But I forget what planet it's on, but it's not Yavin. So they're over there. There's a cell, I don't think Dindana, they're connected. It's just Commander Sato is like really the highest ranking person in that group. But I'm thinking with Yavin, you could do some really fun stuff. Like you could actually bring in a Jedi to help clear one of the Asasi temples. Like
that's right, because an old EU, right? An old EU, that was Luke's training temple. First training temple was in the Masasi temples, and that's when one of the students gets basically possessed by a dark sider. The spirit. So that's really, I really didn't think about that. But
they could literally like rope in Caleb. I mean, I always want to call him Caleb Dune. Like he's like, oh, if you know him as long as I have, he's Caleb.
Right.
And Jarrus, and even Ezra to come and like clean out that temple, or like sort of, they're like, I don't know, we sense force presence, force stuff. They're right there, they're alive. Involved. And I mean, I think it kind of jumps where all of a sudden they're on Yavin. Like they don't show how they discover Yavin in Rebels. They're just sort of there, I think. In I think season 4. So I wonder if we're gonna get that in Rogue One. But we know week 4 for Rogue One is going to lead exactly up to Rogue One, so that's going to be kind of, I don't know how they do all that, but
I don't know, but it's going to be right there, and it's I think we see even in the preview, right? We see them walking in kind of a fully formed Yavin base at some point. So it's.
Anyways, so thank you for listening to that.
No, I appreciate that. Helps puts things in perspective, because I just literally was sitting there going, I was literally out loud, I just went, Ahsoka. Like, just like I wouldn't even think about the fact that Ahsoka is running around and could definitely pop in, or at least be mentioned.
It could be Ahsoka that goes and cleans out that temple. Like, I can't imagine Tony doing it, but that's kind of the magic of this series, is that like huge cameos don't exist. It was like weird even to see Krennic so early. I was surprised. Waited a little bit. Like the whole first season, if Krennic showed up, I would have needed to wear my brown pants. Like,
right. Yeah.
I mean, even Wolf Yularen was like a huge, cameo, but relatively huge. But like, if you had someone like Ahsoka pop in, like he'd drop you off.
I will say, I was a little skeptical that it could happen as well. But then I was like, if you watch Rogue One, there are two really, they have two cameos, right? They have Dr. Abrazan and what's his name? They run into them and Ponda Baba, thank you. And then you get I don't love either of these, by the way, but they're there. And then you get the C-3PO R2-D2 moment in Rogue One. So you could do it, right? You could just have her literally walk by for a second and be like, I cleared out the temple for you. Like, it would just be amazing if it was just like a little, like, just
that would be hilarious. Cleared out the tunnels for you. It's safe now. She's like bleeding. Like, that would be so funny. She's like, no, it's fine. You're like, all right. That would be hilarious.
I want to ask you a question that I will ask vaguely, and we don't have to talk about on air. Did you hear about the recent casting stuff going on around the season of Andor? They cast a character.
No.
Okay. All right. We'll leave it there. I don't want to spoil it. We'll probably find out. We'll find out in one of the next 3 weeks, and then I'll have a lot to say.
Wait. So okay.
They recast. Let me put this. They recast a character. But we'll talk about it in Andor. But I don't want to spoil it. Okay. Or just in the Star Wars universe. Let's put it that way. They've recast a character. But we'll talk about it when it happens. I don't want to spoil it for anyone.
Okay. All right. So good.
It's not like a big. By the way, it's not a big like. I can't believe this character showing up. So don't worry, I'm not like that. But anyway, we'll talk. About it. I just want to know if you heard about it and how you feel. But we'll talk about it when it happens.
No, I've been obsessed with the NFL draft, Adam.
Yes, I know. We can talk about that for a while. I've been happy. They were doing things I was not expecting the Browns to do, and I've been pleasantly surprised by their.
We're going to talk running backs because the Patriots fan base is hoping that we did a flip-flop of the Sony Michel Nick Chubb draft, and we got the good one this year. Where that's what we're holding out hope for.
Yeah, you never know.
You never know. Well, we will.
I mean, we'll know, but you don't know right now. Yeah.
Hopefully, everyone wins.
Yeah.
Anyways, So I've been pretty much radio silence on coverage of this show.
I think I gotta avoid. I do the Instagram and I check it when I get bored. I'll check because the Coral News or the Cantina Chronicles Instagram is like it's great. Like it's all just Star Wars. It's everything Star Wars. So I can go on there if I want to avoid like the world.
Yeah.
But like I saw that and like, oh darn, and then I got looped into the other dumb argument that's going on right now about the stuff. We'll talk about that a little later, or at least the scene. So I might avoid for the next 3 weeks of just going on that. Yeah.
Right on. So I think the next thing we should talk about is Mon Mothma. I think the Chandler arc would be a good arc to do. First of all, so cool to finally see Chandrilla.
Right.
It's more beautiful than I expected. The fact that they're just like, it's all mountain outcrop homes that are like the sides of these giant, like, monolith mountains, and like there's even like a quote where they're just like, oh, he lives 4 valleys away, like because it gives me like super villain vibes. Like, do you ever see these brutalist cantilevered like massive homes, like a certain dictator from a large country? They show his home a lot, and it's like over this like river, like 1,000 feet up, and it's just like a concrete square with like a thing that like a catwalk that like you can look over the river and maybe dispose of your enemies. And I feel like these homes are beautiful. It's more Italian or Nordic, or I don't know what you would say, Elvish. They're not that brutalist style, but they are perched up precariously above all the riffraff.
Yep. It is. They did a good job of showing, which is hard in Star Wars to show wealth and opulence because we're not used to that, right? It reminds me of the, going to the, Last Jedi, right? Just going to, and I feel like it nails it every time they do it. I feel like, feels like opulence, but a weird type. And it looked so great. And all the outfits were amazing. Did you catch in this scene, right towards the beginning of this, we do get a Rebels crossover?
Oh yes, we do. We a character crosses over.
I thought of you when I saw this. A character, Erskine. Yeah.
Sorry, I should have mentioned that. But I guess it comes here because I actually, that is something I caught on the on Reddit. Where they were like, oh yeah, this guy, blah blah blah, and I was like, oh, it is him, because they did sort of sit on him a while, and it like felt like whatever, and they mentioned his name, and it's like, oh, okay, and so he's in that one episode of Rebels.
I googled because I'm like, clearly that I should know who this is for that reason. Like there was like a did you know? And I'm like, no, I gotta double check this, and so they are. I mean that helps you, right, in terms of our theory about the crossover, because they are pulling from that bag, right? It could have been the lore keepers who are just like, whoever this character is, we'll just make sure it's this character. But the fact that they did that weird, like, hold on him for a second, like it wasn't even like a post-production, we'll just say this character is that character. They name him, as you say, in that scene. They lie on him, so they're doing it for the fans. So yeah,
I love that fan service.
Me too.
It. So he's there, but instant drama, just like instant. So it's a 3-day wedding, which I love. very Indian. And they, so day one, everyone's arriving, and who's there but Luthen Rail, in his guise of antiques dealer. And that sets off the whole thing. And Val is there because it's a wedding. So that whole knot of Chandrilan ties are together, and Coruscanti ties.
Yeah, I mean, this is your palace intrigue section of the film, yes. Right? Which I love. It just reminds me of like Dune, like reading the Dune novels. Dune novels are like all palace intrigue. When you read them, they're like there's like 5 minutes of action and then 3 hours of people passing each other in hallways and having conversations, and I love it. But it's just like I was thinking, like, what are the major things that happen in this? And there's like one major thing. Like there's one thing throughout all of this that's really the fault. You do have on the side, you have Luthen and Vel talking about, have we heard from Cassian? I can't hear from Cassian. That's interesting, but that's not really part of the plot here, right? It's just connecting our plots. It's really just Mon and Luthen. Tay. Mon and Tay and Luthen at the end. That's really the only thing that is important to the plot that's happening here. And yet we cut back to this. Well, I don't want to say yet. We cut back to this constantly, and yet it doesn't feel like it's just one thing. It feels important that we're here this much. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, do you think about like what actually happens? It's really just that. There's more to talk about. There's like character. I
guess you're right for the story, lore wise,
for the story. But that's not a critique. It's not a critique. Yeah.
I mean, I think there's a lot of symbolism.
Yes.
For Mon.
Exactly.
Like Mon is now to the level of the fold where it's like Luthen's at, where it's like, a family and friends and a social status. You're gonna have to kind of do away with that and any sort of plans you had there. And she's sort of realizing how deep in she's getting, and it's sort of like she's being sucked into a black hole, and this is the part where like her toes are in it, and now she's sinking up to her waist, and she's realizing there's nothing but the other side. And and it's so things are speeding up, but I mean, I feel like characters have evolved. We know, like, they were, Leda hadn't even met Stecker. Actually, we just met
very briefly. Like we saw their like literally introduction. I think that's it.
And that was it. And in like a little montage scene at the end of the season, and then and then now they're getting married, of course, and so that's going on. But I mean, I do love the palace intrigue stuff.
Me too.
And like their whole culture and her getting along with the criminal that I was wildly trying to Wikipedia and can't find his name.
Skulden.
Davo Skulden.
Yeah.
Stecker, I know, is the son.
Second's the kid, but Skulden is the name. It's Davos. There you go. Davos. Yep. Davo.
That was just, I mean, it was just great seeing the dynamics. But I think it's really about, it's about and then Tay, which is like, oh bro, like this, I liked Tay Colvin's character so much in the first season. I was like, this guy can hang.
So I love this character. This actor, here's my problem with this actor. So he was on a British sitcom show called Coupling, which was their answer to Friends, which it's like Friends if they went to a bar instead of a
living room,
instead of a living room or a coffee shop, and if they really all slept with each other. And I liked it a lot. It's hard because there's a laugh track on it, which is hard to watch now. But it's good, and he's like kind of the Joey character, a little bit Joey thing.
I've never watched Friends. But
that's all right. You're not missing anything. But he's like he's the lovable, like kind of womanizer, but a little dumb. And like he's a lovable character. And then post that, he has only played this character. He's only played someone who is just like instantly charming and likable, and then turns into a heel at some point. Like I haven't seen him play a good person since like the early 2000s. And so the second he was introduced season 1, I'm like, oh no, it's gonna go bad. And then through the first season, I was just waiting for it to happen, and it didn't. And the second you see him in this episode, because he just looks bad, I'm like, here we go. Here we go.
Here we go. Oh, that's so funny that you got that clue in, because I was
because I know the actor, right? Because I'm expecting it. Otherwise,
that's
I wouldn't have seen it coming. Yeah.
Oh, that is brutal, man. Because I loved his character so much.
Same.
And the thing is his fall was so subtly done.
Yes.
Like they make it out like he's making a scene and he's, but when I'm just watching him with my eyes behave, like sure, he runs into someone once and like that was about as broken down as he looked, but immediately recovers, is charismatic, not slurring, being like and speaking delicately about very important and secret issues. I found that like I don't know. I just thought it was a really subtly and deftly done. And he, like, to my eyes, he didn't look that bad.
Yeah, so I think you're right. I think it's super subtle. And I think in some ways it tells a lot about Tay, but it also tells a lot about Chandrillans in general, where like just because he looks like a little not like sloppy, but it's like I can't explain it. Like he's like
coiffed, his hair isn't perfect.
Right, his hair, it's just right. It was his hair is slightly off, and that's enough for everyone in the wedding to be like, no, stay away from that guy. That guy's having a problem. Like,
yeah, and it sounds like his financial woes are common knowledge. That's sort of what I took.
Yes,
again, all very, very subtexty.
Yes,
but I think his financial woes were common knowledge. His wife left him. That mayor, like, he's like, I'm surprised the Chandrillan biddy circle didn't.
Right.
And like, I think saying that was a little uncouth, the way that like Mon reacted to that.
It felt very, not great. Like, but no. And it's funny because Carly and I, a second that happened, we're like, well, Luthen's got to kill him. Like he's dead. Like, just waiting for it to happen.
My dumb face was just like, wait, no.
Yeah, you just liked him. You thought he can get out of this. I'm like, no.
I'm like, no, it's for another reason. And it was weird. The second viewing only confused matters more. Like I was just like, I'm like, he's fine. You could just have a conversation. I really feel like if they had like found a quiet corner for 10 minutes and talked, they might have saved his life.
That guy needs to die.
Well,
you can't trust that guy. So here's the thing. Like, yes, in real life, yes, do not kill someone. In this dramatic connection, I'm just like, well, the entire rebellion could crumble because of this drunk guy. You got to take him out. You have to, right? And it proves you right, because this is Mon Mothma's Rogue One opening moment, where like Cassian like kills an informant, like kills an ally, because if he survives, he's going to ruin his mission. And as much as Mon didn't call this, boy, was she dancing up a storm and ignoring what was going on, where she is tacitly agreeing to kind of what's happening here. And I feel like this is slowly the evolution of Mon realizing that rebellions come at a cost. She's not going to go full Luthen, right? But like knowing that people like Luthen are necessary, and sacrifices are necessary, and murders, unfortunately, are necessary in this type of rebellion. So it's really interesting. But I love they didn't make her say he's got to go. I love that she wasn't asking for it. She didn't really like. They just did so well of just seeing.
I don't even remember how. Like, so there was like 3 interactions with Luthen Rael at the party, each one escalating the degree of stress of that situation. And Luthen is just like he has his eyes trained on Takol, but being like this guy's gonna mess my stuff up. He's just looking for cracks in the armor. He is worried about that asset there.
I think for meeting one, or the first time he talked to Mon about it, Luthen was like, he's gone. How do we get him out of here? How do we take him out? But how do I convince Mon of this? How do I do this and not wreck our relationship? Like, that's what his calculation.
Yeah, exactly. And I think he did it, but like we kind of got Mon's POV.
Yeah.
And and so he breaks it to her gently over the course of these 3 meetings, being like, and like this has to happen. And ultimately we see that his chauffeur is swapped for none other than Cinta, who I'm still holding out hope may actually be Cassian's sister. And Val's lover is definitely Val's lover, and she's actually, that's her whole storyline, was like sort of pining for Cinta, like her girlfriend, and then finally sees her, and we have to assume that he gets murdered by Cinta, who's just sort of Luthen's assassin on call that's never far from him. Like he just travels with an assassin now. Like that's his sort of deal.
Yeah.
Which is important. Luthen's gonna have to do a sacrifice play. Like he sees, like if he dies, he's gonna sort of see that like there's no situation where him surviving would preserve the rebellion, and he's gonna have to go.
I think he the more I think about it, I think he has to kill himself. And I don't mean that way, but I mean like
cyanide pill sort of thing.
Yeah, cyanide pill, or blow himself up to take someone else out, because it just feels like that's the only thing to me that is not redemptive, but excuses a lot of his actions, because he holds himself to the same standards that he holds anyone else. And if he knows that he's about to get captured, he knows he can't hold that. So I think that's the way he goes. He goes at his own hand. I think that's the only thing that works for that character, because he just gets killed. It's like, whatever. Yeah. I think he's got to make that choice.
I totally agree with that. I think, because it's Star Wars, he's had a couple charmed escapes himself. Yep. So it's like you can never really, like, him just sort of cutting the cord and being like, well, I guess I'm going to have to die now is going to be tough to sort of do. But poetically, I think he's going to paint himself into a corner, and that'll be that. Yeah. But it's too bad, because I hope that doesn't happen, because I want him to live forever.
He's one of the best Star Wars characters ever created. Like, it's just, I don't want him gone.
And there is a power scale dynamic in the rebellion at this point, and Luthen knows how important it is. There's no one else that does the Luthen job. We're certainly not in Star Wars, but it's like for the rebellion, he's in a unique position to be a power broker, to bring factions together, can do this all discreetly, has the money to finance it.
He's like the Obi-Wan Kenobi of the rebellion in a weird way. Like, right, like he's the wise master, but like the wise master of the rebellion is not a sociopath, but a person who, sacrifices his own, humanity for the cause. Yeah.
Right. And I wonder if that's in the writing, man, because now, that makes a lot of sense that he's really, if we called Cassian sort of the Jedi, like, or the, Luke Skywalker or whatever. And so like this sort of hero. And then, I don't know. It makes sense that Luthen would be that Obi-Wan type of person.
No, the more I think of Cassian, the more I think he's a Luke Skywalker character, right? He's touched by the Force. He's very lucky. He's in pivotal moments. He's, like you said, he's a leader. He's learning to be a leader. He's learning how to do all these things. He's pulling like Jedi mind tricks for a person who isn't a Jedi. Totally. Yeah. But at the end of this whole, so there's two things. You talked about how at the very beginning of this, a lot of this is Mon coming to the realization that you can't have two things, right? You can't have the rebellion, and you can't have a family. Like those two things do not connect. And this episode did such a great job of making it very easy for her to leave her family. Perrin's not too bad in this episode. But there's a couple things. I think his speech is the thing that actually is probably Mon's like, I'm done, because Perrin's speech is basically like ignore all the horrible things happening in the world and find things that make you happy.
Find the joy. He's like, joy. Yeah, life is terrible. Find the joy and
ignore the terrible. Like it's just the opposite of Mon. And I'm like, it was a great speech. It's so his character, and it was perfect. But it was just like, I think that's more to Mon than anyone else. And then her daughter. I am so done with watching teenagers on TV. Is like the fact, like the very end when she's like, I wish you were drunk, and I'm like, yep, she'll have no problem leaving this girl behind. I'm sorry. I'm like, cut ties. She's married. She'll go be with them. I'm out. Like, just. Yeah.
No, I mean, just gutting her mother, in a moment of just trying to be so connected and
trying to connect.
And trying to give her freedom. I mean, maybe she was speaking a little bit from her own POV, and Leto was like picking up on that. But it just like Mon is just like, why are you making this so easy to just like,
like
manipulate, like to just pass you on as another pawn in my game? Like I don't want you to be that. And it's just
And the interesting thing I was thinking about is like, like how she was resistant to like basically not sell, well, almost selling her off to the Skullduggan family. I'm wondering now, her calculation is, well, if we are going into a civil war, the Skullduggan family is probably the family that's most likely to survive and be okay, because they are willing to sell themselves and like pick the biggest winner. And maybe that's almost like she's rationalizing it as a protective move now of just like, that's more safe for her. She'll be taken care of by this family.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's stupid wealthy. He's probably armed,
has no moral ethics. He'll go wherever the safest place is.
I think history will absolve Mon. I think Leto if she grows up, will, look back and understand where she is in her life and be like, oh my gosh, and my mom gave me so many outs on this and I didn't take any of them. I don't know if she'll remember it that way or not. She seems like just a really terrible person, so we'll see. But the person I loved in this was Perrin.
Yes,
I think Perrin was kind of foil. They had to set him up where he's just kind of a d-bag in 25 robes, in the first season. But like I really liked him in this season. I had this theory, and we actually had it in the text chat. But there's a scene where he appears to be sort of like picking on Mon. He's like, "Oh, have you heard about your boyfriend?" And he's talking about take hold of this fall. But I feel like ever since the book that we reviewed, Reign of the Empire,
Mask of Fear, right? I think Mask of Fear, Reign of the Empire.
Perrin, their relationship is that like it is occasionally loving, but at the very least it's functional, and Perrin knows his role. He can do things diplomatically that Mon can't, and he does that job well. And I think he's not as dumb as we make him out to be.
No, he's well aware. And in the book, his job is a lot of times to protect her politically.
Yeah.
Right. And it is very much, and it builds out of this, right? That their marriage was a marriage of why am I thinking? I can't.
It was arranged. It wasn't
arranged marriage. Yeah, thank you. I couldn't think of the word arranged. And so, like, and they do. There's a line in the book where she's like, sometimes our relationship, sometimes we're close, and we're distant, but we always, it's something like we always respect each other, or we always protect each other, or something. And I feel like, I love that book because it does give me a different. He's still kind of not great, but he's like.
So with that book in mind, I think Perrin in the scene might be like speaking in like relationship code. Like if you've been in a relationship, sort of that you have a shorthand, you have a secret language. And I feel like his secret language with Mon was like telling her, and maybe he was trying to be cryptic about it, but was just like, yo, whatever you're doing with Tay, there's a stink on him, and he's not your guy. You're gonna have to figure something else out.
Yeah, I love that interpretation. I didn't see that. I've only watched it once. I didn't see it all, but the second you shared that and you talking about it now, I'm like, oh, that totally could be what's going on there, right? Because he basically brought it to her attention that there was an issue that she needed to figure out, right? In a very Perrin way. But like she may have never known, right? If it wasn't for Perrin, because like the quote unquote biddy circle, which I don't like saying, didn't tell her, and who else would have told her, right? And she wouldn't have been there to see him carried out or whatever. So I like that
the biddy circle. He like Perrin, right? That's his superpower that Mon doesn't do. He's a gossip. Everyone loves him. Tell him secrets.
I love that.
I really like Perrin in this arc a lot. I like watching him anyways. He can still be vile, and like the way you said, like how he's the anti-Mon with his just have fun. Yes. Like, just bury your head in the sand and cling to the like joy.
Which there are a lot of people in the world right now doing that, right? And I understand that, and that's not necessarily. I mean, we could have arguments all day with people about whether that's a moral failing or not. Well, people have a moral obligation to resist, which they do at some level. But like, you can't also blame people who check out sometimes, right? Like it's who people are, and I really hope they don't give him a villain turn. I hope they just keep him like this, and that like. Mon goes and does her thing, and he's still on Chandrilla doing his thing. And I mean, it could end up really bad for him. He could end up in an Imperial facility being like tortured and questioned because of Mon's actions, which might be like he might be like kind of a victim by the end of this whole thing.
He has a relationship with Davos Gulden. Again, like this is going to maybe this relationship with his family is exactly what her husband and daughter need to keep themselves safe. And Perrin's savvy, but that would be kind of fun if she tipped him off to be like, go to your friend, hide. Like, I'm about to yeet out of the Senate and like become the face of the rebellion. So, you're going to want to get safe first.
I wonder if she does do some type of like plan to make it look like they had a falling out or something, right? Like prior to this,
or like save him a little bit.
Yeah, because it'll be interesting because I don't see her cold-bloodedly throwing him to the wolves, no matter what, right? Like, because that doesn't seem like her character. Even if he cheated on her, which he does, or did something else, like I still think she wouldn't want him. Yeah, so
exactly, and I think and actually we saw an example of that exact scenario play out in the fourth storyline of this arc. With Brasso trying to save his friend at the end. They're like picking a fight at the last minute to be like, we're not on the same side, to try and save his friend. Over for him.
I love that scene. Yeah.
So I guess let's move. The only one I wanted to talk about from that Chandrila thing was Clea. Secret scene stealer Clea.
Yep. Who is like the badass of badasses and like the person who clearly understands the mission more than anyone else.
I don't have lately. I have every day.
Yes. Yep.
That's Clea. I always want to call her Leda for some reason, but it's Clea, and I will remember it eventually.
Sure.
But yeah, seeing her interact with Vel is always a blast. She hates Vel. Vel hates her. They're like, Vel's being competitive with Clea, and Clea's like, you're not on my level.
And you'll never be me.
You'll never be me. And she's dark and does all the dirty work. She's like openly like angry about scanning radio signals for an entire day. And finally gets to, she's key in that she heads back to the shop on Coruscant just so she can communicate with Cassian to try and see where this mission went awry. Which is, we do get a lot of Luthen Rail talking about that as well, and on the side with Clea and their relationship there. But she's just a great character, and I love that shop. I don't know if it was there in season 1. I think it might have been, but we got a close-up shot of Plo Koon's mask.
Yeah, I saw that. I think it was in the background. I think I remember someone spotting it, but it was right there this time, and I loved it.
And it's right next to one of like Queen Amidala's headpieces.
It's such a great shot.
Headpieces. I don't know if it was Padme or if it was her successor, but
a Nabooine, headpiece for sure. The other thing that I love about her is just like, it's just like watching her get to business with like the way she's talking to Cassian, to be like trying to keep him in code and like just trying to be like, stop it, like
stop doing that, like we're
code, please. And the other thing, the one other hanging thread, not really hanging thread, but she says like, don't worry, I have a ride back. Remember she says that? Like, do we never know how she gets, like, who the ride back is to Coruscant?
Oh, really good point, because I remember that line too.
I
thought I interpreted it. No, I thought she took the Vondor, the Fondor Hallcraft, and
basically
Luthen said he has his own ride, and that probably was Cinta.
That makes sense. I mean, that totally makes sense. That makes more sense than what I thought. And
I think it'd be very much in character for him to party, continue the party with Davo afterwards.
Right.
I mean, we should talk about, I know Grant is going to want to talk about this a lot, so we'll be sure to bring it up to him next week. Sorry. Grant is stuck in a star cluster or something. Able to get out of it. He's actually at a meal that is running way longer than anyone would appreciate. So, so he's not going to be here, but we will talk to him next week specifically about, it is, what are they called? Of course, I'm like seeing cross-eyed right now. The sculpture, the Shandy Merle.
Shandy Merle, thank you. I would never about it.
Shandy Merle.
Yes.
It's a sculpture that's 25,000 years old. There was 12 of them. 8 had been recovered. And I mean, there should be a comic with Davo and Luthen tracking down this Shandy Merle. Like, he's like, it started with a rumor, and like that this thing existed, and they went and found it and purchased the unpurchasable. Mom even says that statue is worth more than her home, and her home is considerable.
It has to do when he was telling that story about there only being 12, and now is it the 7th is home? Is that what he said? Is it the 7th one or 9th? The 9th home. It's like my mind couldn't fathom how much something like that would cost. Like that's basically the same thing as a I just fell out of my mind. The eggs, like the I'll think of it later, of course, but there's like
Jurassic Park eggs.
No, like the fake eggs that are made.
Fabergé eggs.
Like those are so expensive because I think there was only 12 of them made or something like that, and that's why. So it's very similar to that, except those hold no like significant cultural significance to the level that these things do. So you add that on top of it, it's wild.
And I think you guys were talking, you and Grant were talking offline about what culture they may come from, but I'm not as familiar with
that was all Grant. I don't remember. But it's something. It looks like something I've seen before. It had like similar to
almost like the characters from the Jedi
Fallen Order. Yeah, I had the same thought. It looked like the Fallen Order alien species. I can't remember their name, but totally. Yeah.
But who doesn't love ancient lore? So that's a nice little drop in there as well. I loved this arc so much. It was
same.
And now we go to the super sad arc.
The one we put off to last because we don't want to talk about it.
I don't really want to talk about it.
Yeah, it's so sad. Yeah.
So we have this is Bix, Brasso, and B. The older woman who was actually piloting them out of Ferrix, I didn't see.
No, that's
I don't know if she went back or what her deal is or where she is, but she was part of that cadre.
She was. That's right.
And so I don't know. But so it centers on these three. They have this little pop-up caravan mechanic shop next to it's actually really kind of cool. It's what is that country? That planet is called Minarao, right?
Minarao.
Yeah, and it's sort of like each hill, and there's like they have the numbers just like drawn on the side of the hill, and each hill is a different industry or whatever, and they're a colony, and and they float around and make some money, and they've ingratiated themselves with the locals.
Yeah, just they're repairing, basically just repairing stuff, going to different things, repairing. I love how quickly that you understand the way this planet functions, right? Like it's just and there's no exposition that really, it's just that you get it within 3 episodes of cutting back of how this whole thing works. And it's just really neat. And it's
so, like the cool. Iowa of the galaxy.
Yeah. I had Lethal vibes to me at times because of like the long ranges of like grain. It was such a cool, again, nothing we've ever really seen in Star Wars live action before, and still looked like an alien planet in such a cool way.
And the super silos, which was like silos attached to silos that was cantilevered, and like that was very Star Wars and cool. I know. I mean, I watched a couple videos of people breaking down trailers, and one person was convinced this was Lothal. Which would make sense. It does, like you said, it looks a lot like Lothal, but it's not.
No.
New planet. And sure enough, so we get we discover that Will, who we didn't get a lot of in the first season, is a little more present here. He's fallen on love with a young local. Bila, and Brasso has found a special woman friend named Tally. And then there's B, and then Bix is just, I think that there's a relationship now between Bix and Cassian. I think they're going to develop that over the years.
It seems implied, right, that they're at least very, very close. If they're not, it seems like that's where it's going. And like Will's storyline is kind of interesting and really sad because like in the last season, he had such a tragic story, right? His dad gets hung, strung up, basically in front of everyone. He becomes like radicalized, creates a home, an IED, right? And like throws it at some stormtroopers. And it's so sad because at the beginning of this, I'm like, oh, look at this. He's like, he has a life again. He's like a kid again, a little bit. And then immediately taken away from him again. Like, by the end of the episode, it's just like, oh, yeah.
I know, it's so brutal. And of course the of course the like Empire shows up, like they hadn't even seen, like for an audit, and they hadn't seen it in 10 years. They had a pretty, what is the name, a ship that callback from A New Hope. That one is the TIE Advance V1. And there's the TIE Advance X1. Sorry, we see. So there is a callback to the first season of Rebels. Another one. It's a design of the TIE Advanced V1.
Oh, right. Yep.
It's essentially the first version of Vader's TIE Advanced X1. So that we see those chasing Cassian out of there, which is fun for me. But we also see the Inatmo TIE ship, and I'm looking for it. Here it is. It is the Phantom. Oh no, the SKX1. Phantom roll, cloaking abilities. No. Yeah, I don't know. I guess it's the SKX1 is what it's called, but it's like an in-atmo tie that looks like a bat. It's like the wing, and it's kind of fantastic. So that is the harbinger of doom for them, and and then hilarity ensues.
It is, Carly, when we're watching this, Carly, like, when were they writing this? And I was like, last year. And she's like, prescience, as always. Like, this one is the one
earlier than that. I mean, they've been literally working on the series for almost 10 years.
So. Well, I mean, I guess it had to have been because they had it written before the writer's strike. So you're looking at least a couple of years. And it just is this, like, once again, just fascism works as fascism works, right? Yeah. Like, this is just from the book, right? And so this was the hardest one to watch because of that, similar to other scenes. It just felt so timely. Yeah. And just watching, the plight of refugees is hard to do, and done so well. And I just, we'll kind of cut to the end, but I saw this and I saw the first thing. I'm like, oh, this is kind of nice. Like they're all together still. Like right, they're all still together. And yes, Bix is traumatized, still having nightmares. Understandably, everything that happened. But then I'm like, 5 seconds later, I'm like, oh, they all gonna die. Like they all gonna, like, they can't, like Cassian can't, like, and I just, and then Brasso, Brasso has like a lady friend. I'm like, oh, Brasso's gonna die. Like he's got to go first. Yeah. Like there's no happiness. You can't be happy in this galaxy. And I just like, and I was like, well, maybe not. And then the second the ending started, and I'm like, the second he hopped on the speeder, I'm like, there goes Brasso. Such a great character. And I mean,
I thought he was gonna make it, but that's my ignorance sort of.
Yeah, no one's gonna make it.
No one's gonna make it.
We're gonna lose all of them. B2 Emo is gonna go before the end of the season.
So I was actually gonna say, like, obviously, like the tragedy was losing Brasso, but for me, like B was the bigger tragedy.
Yeah,
as a pet owner, because he's like, if like your sweet loyal hound could actually talk, it would just be like, but where's my owner?
Where's Cass? Where's Cass? Where's Cass?
Yeah, just like heart melting, and like, like no. And I guess B2's okay. He's hidden with a local. Bila is taking care of, or to the other one, Brasso's special lady friend. Is taking care of him, and they know where Cassian knows where he is. So I'm hoping that he gets collected at some point.
I hope so.
Tally. I don't know.
I hope so too, just because I really want to see a K2SO B2 Emo interaction scene.
Yeah, that would be really fun. That'd be really fun. But I just want, like, it's just like he's a neglected dog, and it's like, like, can I just see you spending some QT with B? Like one mission with B, like, would just make him like so happy, I think. And I don't know. It'd be fun. I adore him. He'll come into play at some point.
Yeah.
But I mean, the tension is that they're waiting for Cassian to get back as the audit's happening. And so there's a timer running the whole time that they're there, waiting for Cassian. And then, of course, it comes to a head.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it starts, with an attempted rape, which, there isn't much overt. I mean, there was no sex involved here, but like sexual situations in Star Wars very much. And then you jump to this, but it's like, I don't know. I actually stumbled on a thread about this too, where they're like, yeah, but like sexual violence is implied kind of frequently in Star Wars. Like there's like female slaves and Twi'leks that have been, like taken over. There's a lot of it, but
it's there. I mean, this is the first time it's been overtly discussed, and I think it's necessary. I mean, like, you're right. You look at like Hutt Slayer Leia, right, which is not her original name, because to use the word slave implies a lot of horrible things that was going on there. I mean, you even have Padme in episode 2 strung up and in an arena and gets her midriff cut off. Like it's been there, a lot of implication. And Tony Gilroy addressed this, and he said, listen, rape and sexual assault has been part of war since humans have been doing it. It's horrible to think about, but it's the reality of war. It is part of it. It shouldn't be. It's disgusting, but it is. And I think to avoid it is worse, right? I mean, it's set up, it's logical, and the thing that I loved about it is that Bix was afraid of the Imperial every single time she was alone with him, because she knew what the situation was. She was a refugee, she's vulnerable, he's a creep, and just watching her try to placate him, but not too much, was some of the most upsetting scenes. We're just sort of like, I can't say anything against it, but if I can't look too eager, I got to like play it really safe and try to do it. And it's just, and it's just awful, but important. And the other thing I'll say is that this show has had more quote unquote sex or intimate relationships than anything else. We almost basically had a strip club in episode 1 of season 1. We had that heavily implied, or not implied. There was a night where
it was a bordello. That was a
bordello. Yep. And then we had Bix spend the night with
Tim. Yep. Oh, again.
All right, I'm back.
Oh, you're back.
Okay. All right. So
and then we had Bix spend the night with Tim.
Yep, Tim, right? And so like it's there, and so to go to this level to include sexual violence, I think is appropriate. And it wasn't exploitative. My wife and I are watching it together. She's okay when this is necessary to a plot. She just doesn't like it when it's superfluous or anything else. And I like to overturn. She's like, that was handled deftly and great. And also give Bix the chance to break through her trauma and bash that guy's skull in was fun to watch.
Hammer, that was great. That's why I'm here for Star Wars right there, is to see Rapist get bashed in the head with a hammer. And then his like final crash and like popping his head off that like bench was a really nice punctuation mark. But that sets off the altercation. Brasso gets separated. Brasso gets gunned down. And there was that the first time I watched it, they had a really long shot of a stormtrooper lining up the shot to take Brasso out, but then sort of it's like a hard cut because Cassian comes in and blows everyone away, so you don't really see it. But I was led to believe that that stormtrooper was the one that gunned down Brasso.
That's the shot. It's the shot. It has to be.
You don't see the muzzle flash, but like I think it happens.
There's no other reason to show to focus on one specific stormtrooper lining up a shot, right? Like that happened, and I'm like, there goes Brasso, like because that has to be like the only reason you show that is, and so after that moment, I'm just like, oh, when are we going to cut to Brasso's body? When are we going to cut to his body? Like it's just waiting for it to happen, and it's still tragic when it happened. It's just like no, like just but
it's brutal and it's tough because Brasso is like, he's just a big teddy bear. How do you not love that guy?
Yeah.
I overall this show, it's just there's so much subtext. Like the first time I saw this, I'm like, how are we going to encapsulate it? Because like the subtext is like the best stuff. And it's always happening. It's sort of like the story behind the story. They're showing you one face, but they're another thing because that's the double life of rebels and refugees and all that. And but there was one to jump back to the Chamberdrillin thing. Yeah, it was that I do remember that I like very much, and it was Vel and Clea talking, and Clea's like, we're just two, single ladies looking for an appropriate mate, and Vel just looks Clea up and down and walks away because she's like, I'm a lesbian, and like so she looked at the only woman in front of her, and she's like, nah, pass.
Nah. Yep. Yeah. No, it's such a great little moment.
She's in a relationship too. So she's and was like, but it's like, it was like one look and you're like, oh, okay. Then there's all that story that's like attached to that, which is kind of fun.
Right. No, I that was a great moment. It was just, again, a little bit of fun to cut the tension is necessary.
Yeah.
Did you notice, going back to the other plot, did you notice that Marva's picture was on the wall?
Yes.
I love that little moment.
Right next to their comms. Yeah.
Yeah. And I can't think of the name of the male kind of head of the farmer, but I wanted to go back to the Brasso moment. Clement, yes,
Kellen,
something
maybe?
Like that. And I couldn't find his name real quick, but that scene was so well done. And again, it gives Brasso a hero moment. That's the other reason I'm like, he's got to have his last hero moment. But it's just like, because I'm like, it took me a second to clue in what was happening, because I was even like, did he turn him in? Because you could also believe that he would have turned him in. And then the little like thank you nod from the guy is just heartbreaking, right? And it's just so amazing. Again,
total subtext. You're just like, oh, this, you could watch this and think of it literally, but it's like, no, he's just like, he's making a sacrifice play there to save his body, which is a nice thing to do. I'm sure they really went out on a limb to house these people. It just goes to show ingratiated they were in the, and we know that like those are 3 all-timers there with Bix, and Will are just great people.
And who said there's a line where it says something and someone goes, it's happening everywhere. I can't remember who. Yeah. Which is like, I love that line too, because it just feels like,
it's like, we don't want it to come here. It's like, it's happening everywhere.
I think that it is here. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. I think that was it. It might've been that planet. And they're like, no, it's, you think you're unique and they're just getting away with it here. It's like, no, this is happening across the galaxy right now.
Yeah.
They're just tightening their fist.
And it's just the look of devastation on the character's face when they say that, because they realize that like, oh no, there is no hope out there. Like, this is not, we're not special.
No,
we're not
going to see this, and justice is going to happen. Like, that's not,
we're not just in a bad place. Everything is a bad place. Everywhere is a bad place. Yeah. Yeah.
So, and then that's it. We have a stunned, shocked, horrified, traumatized Cassian flying away, with just Will and Bix, and we don't know where they're going. No. I don't know. They must have another rendezvous somewhere, but I wonder if they're going to get drawn back into Yavin. Like, I wonder, like, that was the other subtext that maybe it was just in my headcanon, but like, I think he was looking at these warriors and we're like, if I ran this squad, I could make these people like fighters.
Yeah.
And and like, I wonder if he's like, all right, I'm going to actually like pull them together. We need fighters. I don't know. Maybe that comes later.
But there might be a scene where it's like he realizes he needs a strike force and he knows where to go.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And all they needed was a ride, really. So it's like,
that's it.
Why don't we just he knows they're allies.
Yeah, he does.
Listen to that because they're hungry and idiotic. And
and they have no leader. They're hungry. They're just scared.
They're stranded. They think they're stranded, but ultimately they probably got delivered. So they had another party as well that was like, they were like, he's going to come back for us. They're like, he's never going to come back. But the guy said he was picking up stragglers. So,
for all you know, he showed up the next day, right? After Cassian got out. Like, who knows?
Right. And it's Lord of the Flies in there or Apocalypse Now. And
I wonder if, like, my thought at the end of this is that Cassian is going to realize that, like, he's going to not realize, he's going to think that he has to disconnect himself from Bix and Will because anything around him dies. I feel like that's the natural arc. But I feel like what's going to happen is, and I think it connects to this idea of going back to Yavin or somewhere else, is that I think after this, Bix and Will are fully on board to be part of the rebellion. I think they are now going to be full-fledged members of the rebellion after watching this. Like, I don't, you know what I mean? I don't think it's going to be survival. I think they're both going to be primed to fight. I think Bix, saving herself, seeing that like she can't hide, being re-traumatized by the Imperials again. I feel like she's just going to go. And then we see scenes in the in the preview that kinds of suggest that. But I think Will's the other character who just like already was radicalized, tried to get out of it, and because of his action, not because of his actions, but related to his actions, Brasso died, right? A little bit, and I think he's going to take that hard and want to fight. Yeah, so I think they're just not going to let him go. Yeah, or they're just going to join up. Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think we'll see more of the squad. So, I had my Rebels season sort of, they actually do match, but you have to count season 1 of Andor in there. So next week we could actually see the Mon Mothma extraction.
Okay. All right.
That could be going on. And then maybe the following week we get Yavin, and then the last week will be
a couple days right before
Rogue One.
Rogue One, the prequel to the prequel.
Yeah,
like it's so funny. I'm just thinking how every time you watch Rogue One, it's just you almost instantaneously have to press play on A New Hope, and it's just gonna be like from now on, you're just gonna like if you ever start the last run of Andor, you're doomed because you have to watch Rogue One and then you have to watch A New Hope.
New Hope. Yeah, it's just like now you have 2 days worth of material to just binge.
Right. I will say this is just kind of a quick aside about how much these episodes suck you in, is that like my plan was always to watch it at 9, watch all 3 in a row, go to bed, wake up kind of sleepy the next day. Carly's plan was like, I'll watch the first episode with you, I'll go to bed, and then I was like, I'll happily rewatch the next couple episodes with you next couple days. So that night, 9 o'clock, we start it. It ends. She's like, go watch the next one. And at the end, she's like, well, I gotta watch the next one. So it's like we already figured out. She's like, no, next 4 Tuesdays, next 3 Tuesdays, I'll just be tired on Wednesday. Like I'm gonna stay. I can't not do this. Yeah.
Everyone's gonna have their own thing. I was supposed to have a job at 4:45 in the morning on Wednesday, and it went away, and I've never been happy with this work in my life. And
I have a thing at school from 6 to 8 p.m. next Tuesday, and my plan is to and academic, Ben, you'll relate to this, that things end and then people like to chat for the next hour and a half because academics love to chat. Me too. As an academic, I'm like, stop talking. I'm gonna be like, I'm sorry, I have a hard out, and I'm gonna probably make up something about my daughter. And she's like, I gotta leave right at 8. Sorry, mostly because it's an hour drive home, and I want to get home right by 9 because I know I have to watch the whole thing. I'm like, nope, they're gonna so.
Gotta go. Got a hard out.
Gotta go. It
happens. And we never have a hard out, though we probably should. We always prattle on. Lord knows how long we've been going. But thanks very much for listening to us. Looking forward to hearing from Grant next week on this arc. And then, of course, the new arc is going to be great. And maybe get a little report, see how Galaxy's Edge has been from Grant as well, which will be fun.
Send some pictures and some videos. He ran into some people there that we'll get we'll talk to him about.
Indeed. Yeah. I'm looking forward to hearing about that experience. But so hey, we got another one next week, and that's what we'll be talking about. Stay great, enjoy, a beverage of your choice, and live, happy and long, and remember to find joy. You need to find joy out there.
Find joy.
All right, we'll see you next week on Cantina Chronicles.